everyone, so today's video is going to be a how to leave your YouTube network. Now this is kind of a sequel to my previous video, which was should you join a YouTube network? And what I found from that video is that majority of the people who watched it and commented on that video were actually people who were signed to networks and they wanted to know how to leave them. So I figured I'd come here today and make a video about this because it's definitely something that can be a bit of a mystery because networks don't exactly advertise how to leave them. A lot of people don't know what goes on once you leave, what you need to do, what has to happen. So today's video I'm going to lay everything out for you and let you know exactly what you need to do to leave your YouTube network. Now your first instinct may be to contact your network and ask them if you can leave. Don't do that. The reason why I say don't do that is because networks will try and cling on to you as hard as they can. And if you reach out to them before checking your rights and your contract and everything, they may try and trick you and make you think that you actually have to stay with them. Do not reach out to them first. First thing that you want to do is have a look at the contract that you signed and see all the terms within that. Now in particular, you want to pay attention to first the contract term, which says how long the contract lasts for. The next thing you want to look for is the renewal term, which is how long the contract is renewed after you've served the first term. So for example, my contract term was 12 months and my renewal term was also 12 months. So that means once you've served the first 12 months, you can be renewed for another 12 months. Does that make sense? Third and finally, you want to look for a rollover period or a rollover clause. A lot of networks will have this in their contract and I'll explain it for you now. What I mean by a rollover period is it's a period of time that you have to let your network know that you want to leave them. So for example, I'll use my previous network as an example. My rollover period was 60 days. So let's just say I signed up to them in January on a 12-month contract term. So that means my renewal will be in January the following year. Good so far? If my rollover period was 60 days, that means I have to get in contact with my network to let them know that I want to leave before the 31st of October, because then that's 60 days before my contract ends. Does that make sense? So you have a period of time that you have to give them notice that you want to leave. Now this can range anywhere from 1 day, 7 days, 30 days, 60 days. It's completely up to the network, whatever time of period they ask for, but it will be in the contract. So once you've had a look at your contract and seen what all of your terms are and all the periods of notice that you have to leave, that is when you can contact your network because you know your rights. Like I said, they can try and trick you and make you think that you've already signed for the next year or whatever, but make sure you check your rights before you reach out to them. So from here, you can email them, you can call them, whatever, get in touch with your network and just say, hey, I want to leave, I'm giving you this much notice, my contract will end on this date and that's the last day that I serve with you. Make sure you're really clear with your words, make sure you are explicit with dates, and make sure you're explicit with why, just so that they know exactly why you're leaving. Now again, I'll go back to my personal experience with leaving my network. It took about 3 weeks and 7 emails back and forth to finally get them to agree to let me go. And I don't mean agree as in like they were refusing to let me go, but they were trying so hard to put their claws into me, offering me all these random promotions and all these random things and saying, please, please, please don't leave. So it took about 3 weeks for me to get through to my network and say, no, I'm done. This is my last day. Let me go. Now it's not completely uncommon for networks to ignore YouTubers who want to leave. So you may reach out to your network and they may never get back to you. They may ignore every little bit of contact that you make with them. So what do you do from here? Well, you have a couple of options. Your first option is to go into your account settings on YouTube and request an unlink from your network. Now, like I said, this is in your account settings, so it's something that you'll have to do. Your network won't do this for you, but it is something that anyone can do. It's just a small little button that says request to unlink. All this does by clicking that is it's a request to unlink from your network. Now from here, YouTube will get in contact with your network and your network has to agree to let you go. So this is why it's important where you have a look at your contract first and see what your rights are, because the network can refuse your request to unlink. They can say, no, you're stuck. So by checking your contract and knowing your rights, knowing when you can leave and how you can leave, then you can actually go back to them and say, hey, no, this is what the contract says, let me go. Your second option is to have a look through your contract and look for any breaches that may be present. See if there's anything that the network hasn't done that they said they would do in the contract. So for example, it may say that in your contract you get 1 promotional campaign per month. Now if they haven't abided by that, obviously the contract is then breached and you have a little more legal grounding. Which brings us to your third option where you seek legal advice. Now, not necessarily everyone can afford this. I know I definitely couldn't afford it when I left my network. Luckily, mine was a little more streamlined and a little nicer. But you may have to go through a legal battle, I guess, to get out, and that's just something that can happen to some people. In most cases, it doesn't, because a lot of networks will focus on their bigger YouTubers and they'll cling on to them a lot harder than they will to a smaller YouTuber. So it's not necessarily something that you can expect to happen, but just be prepared in case it does. And there are plenty of places that will provide you free legal aid, so it's definitely something worth having in the back burner if you should need it. So those are the different ways that you can leave your network. Obviously, contacting them and having a conversation with them is probably the easiest way. Next, the request to unlink would be the next easiest way, and then from there it gets a little bit trickier and a little messier, but those are your options that you have to leave your network. So what happens once you've left? What happens once the network has agreed to let you go? More often than not, what they'll do is on the very last day of the contract, they'll let you go, but they'll take all monetization off your videos. Now, the reason for this is because they have taken over your AdSense account, which I explained in my last video if you don't understand what that is. But when you sign to a network, they take control of your AdSense account. So when you leave them, that AdSense account is no longer kicked in. You've got to redo that yourself. And they don't tell you either that they've demonetized your videos, they just kind of drop it on you. So what you need to do is re-monetize your videos, and it's really simple. You just go into your video manager, select all your videos and go monetize, and that's it. From there, your AdSense account will kick in again and you will start getting your earnings from Google from that very day. It starts from there. And that's essentially all you need to do to move on from your network to working on your own with just YouTube. Now, the thing to note though is that some networks do offer some protection against copyright. For example, I know some gaming channels do have some special permissions when they sign up to a network, and if you do leave them, you may lose those special permissions. So you may lose monetization on some videos because they may be in breach of copyright. So that is something to keep in mind. You may lose monetization on some videos, but very rarely is that the case. But all said and done, that's the entire process. Like I said, networks can choose to be difficult in this instance. They don't necessarily want to let you go because you're their way of making money. So don't expect it to be an easy process. Don't also expect it to be tremendously hard, but just be prepared, know your rights, know the facts, and know what you need to do, which is what I've done in this video. I've shown you exactly what you need to do, what you need to know, and where you need to go from there. I feel I should also mention really quickly that YouTube has no bearing on this either. You can't actually reach out to YouTube directly and ask for some assistance or some guidance or anything. Like I mentioned in my last video, a YouTube network is third party, so YouTube itself has nothing to do with it. They won't help you, unfortunately. It is something that you're gonna have to do between you and your network. If you have any questions at all, please leave them as a comment down below. I'm sure I've forgotten something in here, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.